Hello and welcome! You're here with Miss Libby Rose, and in today's sewing tutorial we're going to be making the beach bum tote bag. Now this is lined or reversible, whichever way that you'd like to use it, and you're using 4 fat quarter pieces. So you can gather up your materials. You'll need to download the pattern, and that comes in 2 pieces like this. You've got the top and the bottom, and all the instructions are on the pattern, but you'll just download it at A4 landscape size and stick those together just all as instructed. And then you'll have one full piece that looks like this, and you've got a little cut out of the side that's not the side that's on the fold. This side's on the fold and this side is a little cut that you'll be cutting out. 4 fat quarter pieces, buttons, pins, scissors, your sewing machine. So if you gather up all of your materials and then come back to me and we can get started. Now first up, you'll want to cut your pattern out on the fold. So you've got 4 pieces on the fold and they'll come out like this. So you'll have 4 pieces like that on the fold, just all as indicated on the pattern. And then you'll have little squares out the edge. So cut out 4 pieces that look like that. Now, once you've cut those out, I've said to keep hold of these pieces that are just the extra bits. So there is some smaller extra bits, but these ones are quite handy. And I know in one of my videos, one of the Facebook Live, someone was asking what you do with all of the offcuts. So I decided to include some offcuts in this pattern. So what I've done is, if you can take these pieces, and it fits ever so nicely in the patch pocket pattern. So you could cut out patch pockets. You could cut all 4 or just 2 patch pockets and follow the instructions on the patch pocket video, but you could include those in, and what I've done is put those on. So that's the first thing that you would need to do after cutting out. Pop the patch pockets on if you'd like to. So see how I've gone ahead and done that there. So I've just put mine to the side and to the side. So I've got 2 sides with patch pockets. They're going to be my outsides, and these other 2 are going to be my insides, and I haven't put pockets on those just because that's my choice, but you might want to have pockets on the inside as well. So if you'd like to do that, you can. Or you could add applique as well. So if you want to just add a little picture, and perhaps you could cut out pictures out of these offcuts as well. You could do a little love heart or a little cat shape or a sunshine, whatever you'd like to do, and pop those on now. So once you've done all the little extras, then we can get started on putting the bag together. So now that we've added the patch pockets on, we are ready to start putting the bag together. So I've got my 4 pieces of fat quarter fabric cut out and ready. I've got a buttonhole foot, pins, buttons, my scissors, my sewing machine, and we are good to go. So first up, I'm going to take 2 pieces that go together. So I know that these 2 pieces of fabric are going to go on the inside of my bag, or the lining, or the side without the pockets on. So you can have it fully reversible if you like, but I know that these 2 are going on one of the sides. So I'm now going to sew down this line, this line, this line. So 1, 2, 3, leaving these corners open. So I put my pins in. If I pin perpendicular to my stitch line, I will then know that I can sew along and leave those pins in, because if you've pinned perpendicular to your stitch line, it makes it a lot easier for you to stitch along. The pins are still holding it in place, and you're actually not going near your pins because they can stay there and you're stitching along. So that's just one of my top tips. If you pin perpendicular to your stitch line, then you can leave your pins in when you're sewing, just as long as they're not actually on your sewing line. So if you're pinning this way, then you would have to take them out as you go. But because I'm pinning like that, so I'm going to be sewing horizontally, so I can put my pins in vertically. They're well away from my stitch line. I'm going to be going edge of the foot against the edge of the fabric. So these pins are away from my stitch line, and that makes it easier for me to sew along and leave my pins in. So it's holding it nicely in place for me as I sew. And then I just need to take the pins out at the end. So go right ahead and go along this line, miss the box, along that line and up there. And you can do exactly the same on the other piece. So this is my outside pieces. I'm laying them down with right sides together. And then I put some pins along. Again, perpendicular to my stitch line. So I pin along. And I sew down, leave this box open, along, leave this box open, along. All of this stays open and these boxes stay open, and I'm going to sew just along the edge of the fabric and the edge of my foot. So the edge of your foot against the edge of the fabric. So go right ahead. And now we have sewn up the 3 sides, leaving our boxes open. Trim off any loose threads and take your pins out. Then we are going to do this little tricky part. So go to these boxes. So the squares in the corner. Now I definitely know that this one I want on my outside. So I know that this has got the pocket on it. So I know that it's going to be on the outside of my bag. So I'm going to do both of the corners on this one. So I pick it up, I open it like a crisp packet, open, and I line up these 2 seams. You see what I've done? I've opened it, so now it's quite sort of triangular almost. So you've got this line, and that's where you're going to sew along. This line here, lining up these 2 seams. You could fold one seam one way and one seam the other, or you could open your seams up. It just depends how much your seam allowance allows you. So I've opened it up. And I pop a pin in and I can sew across. Again, I can leave my pin in because I've pinned perpendicular to my stitch line, so it's not going to get in my way. And again, I go to the other side, open it like a crisp packet, line up these 2 seams, that one to that one, pop my pin in, away from my stitch line but still holding it in place, and again I'm going to sew along this line. And now we have 2 separate inside out bags with these corners done and one of them still not done. So next up we're going to turn one of them the right way round. So it doesn't matter which one, just one of these the right way. Ta-da! And now I'm going to put the bags so they are right sides together. So this one's the right way. So I'm going to slide the outer bag into the lining. Okay. So now we have right sides together. So it's 2 bags with right sides together. And now you're going to pin all the way around these curves. So line up the 2 side seams. It's all about the pinning now. So you're going to pin and sew around this curve. Then you're going to leave this top open. Again, I have another curve. Going to get my pins in. And sew all the way around this curve, and again, leaving my tops open. And again, around this one, so there'll be 4 times. Line up your seams. Get those nicely lined up. Again, all the way around, leaving the tops open, and finally this one. Now, if you're a little bit worried about sewing around curves, simply line up the edge of your foot with the edge of the fabric and just keep thinking, right, this is straight, so I'll just get that far. Then another bit of straight, I'll get that far, and keep going. If you start to go off-piste, then turn the wheel on the machine, so turn the wheel towards you so that the needle is in, and then you can move around as much as you like. So get sewing around these edges, so all the curves, leaving the top bits open. So now we have all of these curves sewn around and these top bits are all open. We're going to go and do some notches. So anywhere that there's a curve, you can do a little cut or a little triangle. So even just a little snip will do the job. Or if you'd like to be more professional, you can do a triangle. Let's see how you... So I cut a triangle around, or a little snip, 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 snip. Okay, the whole way around these curves. Okay, so the whole way around. Now, once you've snipped enough, then we go to the corner that we left open and we're going to pull the whole bag through that corner. Now, I know that it's going to feel tricky, but just do your best because it does happen. I've done it loads of times and it works, I promise. Just push, push, push a little bit at the time. And if yours pulls out and just looks a little bit funny, you just need to push it inside each other. Now we almost have our bag. Still leave your hole open for now. Okay, so leave this until the very end. Just poke that inside. Next, you want to get all of this down nice and flat, so iron that. And then we are going to turn these tops in. So turning all the tops down. And press. So now I've got my machine all ready for buttonholes, and I'm going to put buttonholes on this side and this side, so both on the same side of the bag. So this one and this one. If I'm looking at the bag, to me that's both on the right hand side handles. So I've set myself up for buttonholes. Now I'm going to go on in and pop the buttonhole in place, making sure that I'm happy that I've pressed down these really neatly, tucked those raw edges away, and now I can go in and put my buttonhole in. So once you've created your buttonholes, simply go to the other side on the same side of the bag and make a chalk mark and hand sew on a button. Now if you'd like some top tips on hand sewing a button, I've got a whole video just about hand sewing on a button. And then you've got one side strap in place, and then again on the other, hand sew the button in place and wiggle it in there. Now, if yours is going to be fully reversible, just put a button on the other side as well. So you've got buttons on either side. And then you've got a super cool bag ready for the beach. You can put your things in your little pockets. And the only thing left is that little corner inside. Now, if yours is going to be fully reversible, I would say so fold that in, iron it, and hand sew that in place. Or if this is just the lining, so you probably won't see it, then just run a machine stitch over the top. But aside from that, really well done. I'd love to see your make, so if you can post a picture, I'd love to see it. And yeah, I'll see you next time for the next sewing tutorial. Bye for now.